Alex here with Straights on the Fly. Here with Arex hooks, Pro Sportfisher tubes. Gonna tie up a fully synthetic kind of bread and butter pattern here for the Great Lakes. This pattern's heavily influenced from a good friend of mine, an ace fisherman, Dave Pinczkowski, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who I think is kind of the guy who brought Craftfur to the table. Now, if you know anything about me or have seen my videos, I love natural materials, marble fox and snow runners and everything else. But I will say that having Craftfur flies can be a real game changer. So the way I like to do it is completely synthetic, no natural material whatsoever. And we'll talk about, why I like a fly like that, maybe some of the benefits of it. One thing is Craftfur material and synthetics are very inexpensive by way of the way materials go. And so you can tie up quite a few nice patterns. So I'm going to do just a very simple kind of a rendition of the Bad Hair Day, slightly different. And I'm going to do it in a color combo that I call the Green Witch. And I'll explain that as we go along. So here for this, I am going to use the Flexitube in green. And if you're tying along, the color combo for this is essentially a lot of black with copper and like a fluoro Kelly green or Highlander green highlights. I'll add some purple in there too. You can take that in or out. Seems to be really good on our Steelhead as well. So as always, I'm going to trim this down a little bit. If I need to trim more, I will. I'm careful not to take too much off right at the beginning because I can't add it back on. But what that does is it makes it a little bit easier, so I'm not tying way out here, and kind of gives me an idea of proportions. So very simply, I'll start out some thread on here. And as always, I really love 50 denier gel spun or a 12-aught. They're extraordinarily strong and they're very, very thin. And it makes it very easy to tie clean flies and get clean heads with this kind of thread. Some folks do claim it's a little bit slippery. I don't have that problem. You just have to adjust to it. You can use some wax as well if that's what you need. So this is a Craftfur brush. I'm a fan of brushes in certain situations. This one is from Aqua flies from Doug, and they're very nice brushes. He has a little bit of flash, this long kind of flash here that's almost like a synthetic Lady Amherst, if you will. And one of the nice things about Craftfur in general is just the fact that it doesn't absorb water. And it actually has quite a bit of movement. You think it moves very much like marabou, but it'll be a little stronger in those cold winter situations where maybe you're below freezing. And if you pull the fly up out, your natural materials and hackles can freeze and sometimes even break. So this eliminates that. And what I do with that brush, you saw me trim a little bit off the top for a tie-in. I like to just go ahead and then reverse that piece in as well, like slow. There's a little bit of it hanging out the back there. You can trim that if you want. This will totally cover it up though. And even though it's a synthetic, you want to try to get as much profile as you can with the least amount of material. So there's one turn, two turns, and I pretty much end somewhere anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5, depending where you get it. And what I'll do is, if I can find my favorite tools, eyelash extension tweezers, you kind of pick it out now. You can kind of rub on that wire a little bit and maybe try to remove some material. Sometimes it works out really nice. Just a spot to tie in at. And that kind of worked. Let me wipe this down. This is just the hardest part with the brush, is getting a clean tie off so you don't get too much bulk. Kind of hold that, tie it. You can see I got a little bit of bulk there. That's okay, we're gonna cover all that up. Let me use a pair of scissors that are not your favorite, or maybe your older pair, to cut this wire, which is these blue ones here. Then I'll cover that up, and don't worry that there's bulk. We're gonna be doing flash and more Craftfur. Just wanna make sure that it stays in. And so once again, with these, I like to sit and just kind of pick everything out. This brush has some shorter material for prop as well. Perfect, we're ready to go. You can trim a little more if you like. Okay, so I like to start out with copper. I'm a huge fan of copper for steelhead in general. It just seems to be a color that they really gravitate towards, whether it's, you know, coppers and greens, which we're doing, coppers and olives, anything of that nature seems to work really well. So now when I do this, this will be the longest section, this first piece of flash, and it's kind of reverse tapering. Since all the Craftfur is a similar length and I can't really get farther with it, if I try tying it all as long as I can, it'll all be the same length right there and gets real gummy. So a better way to do it is to continually shorten as you go. So you still get the teardrop effect, but you just start with longer flash first and work your way towards the shorter side. And that way you can use up all your Craftfur, and you don't have to just specifically use your longest or your best, if you can even find it. For me, Craftfur mainly just taps out at about 4 inches, no matter whose you get. So I'm gonna lightly trim. I'm gonna leave some long pieces out as I don't want to lose the length on this flash, but we will just taper. And all I'm doing when I do that is I'm not cutting all the way down. I'm just doing maybe a quarter of the way, right? Just to get a couple and a couple. And all I want is my flash to be at varying lengths, so they move a little bit more independently and not just one gummed up material. You know, if doesn't matter to the fish, I'm not sure, but if you're going to do it, I always think you might as well make it as nicely as you can and get the most movement out of your fly. And it's a very simple technique to do that. So there, we have different lengths. And you know, one thing when you're tying flies, I always like to think, whether it's a temple dog style fly, Scandie flies, more West Coast steelhead or salmon, at any point during your tying, I heard a tyer say this once several years ago, it really resonated with me. At any point during your tying, you should feel like everything looks good enough to where you could just slap a cone on and fish it. And if you can tie that way, then you're just tying clean and you end up getting a better finished product. So already, save for the bulk obviously we have there, you know, I could easily put a cone on that and it has a teardrop effect and a bait fishy kind of style look. And so we could put a cone on and actually fish that. So when you're tying, just try to make each step look good enough to be the finishing step. And I think you'll be happier with the results of your fly. So once again, I'm gonna do some black Craftfur. And since I'm gonna kind of reverse taper, I'm going longest to shortest. I don't necessarily need just the longest piece. So, and Craftfur does have underfur, amazingly enough. I always found that part kind of interesting. And I'm just gonna pluck that out. I like all the different lengths I'm getting here. No need to stack it or make them the same. Let's move my thread where I want to tie it. And so I'm going to reverse this section, and I'm just going to try to wrap it all around as much as I can there and get that thread as tight to the next material. And see, if you go like this with Craftfur, it usually spins around for you. Now, Craftfur is a very slippery material, so before I reverse this, I'm just going to add, and try not to catch any material when I do this, I'm going to add the glue right here, and I'll show you why. Just let that dry for a moment. Synthetic material, you have to be a little bit more careful. It's always a good idea to think about how you're securing it. It just doesn't seem to compress the same way as natural materials, or the thread has a harder time biting into that material. So if you have, and not all super glues are made the same. I like the crazy glue with the orange top and a brush, and as you go, you just put a little bit on your thread, and you can do that at almost any point. And what's nicer about that is it's cleaner. You're not trying to dab glue into the fly. You just add some to your thread and you wrap it, and you continue on tying. I mean, at the very least, it's like a cheap insurance policy. I think there's good reasons to use it, but I will say, crazy glue, orange top with a brush, it dries clear and it dries fast. And if you've ever tried to take apart a fly after using the crazy glue, it's hard. You need a blade. So those are the reasons why. So now I use my pen here again, and I'm going to reverse the Craftfur, but I'm not tying down on the material. I'm simply tying in front of the Craftfur just to give more bulk and volume, like that. That's very good. I got it secure in the back, and we're just going to do our best to create a nice big kind of head with this that'll push back and have a nice long sleek tail. At this point, I'm going to use some of this kind of fluoro, kind of Highlander green here, whatever kind of green you have, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like a floral Kelly or Highlander is what they call in Scandinavia. Here we call it more of a Kelly. It's close, or just floral green in general will work good. These green colors here in the Midwest and Great Lakes is just a really good color combo to have for our steelhead. Okay, and once again, I'm just reverse tying the same way I always do, which is pull the material underneath and then come around and trim it. And this just makes it, you use less thread wraps that way. Okay, I'm trimming it. I just want that flash in there and a little bit shorter than the rest of all of it. So I still have the long copper tail as my dominant, or as my longest material in there. Then you could keep going with black. I do like adding some purple in there though too. It's just kind of a change up color you can throw in with this. You could just call this good as is, but I'm going to add the purple as well. And these are very easy flies to tie that don't require too much material. And the Flexitubes are very nice for this. So once again, I'm going to pick out the underfur. I'm just going to wrap that Craftfur around. Make sure it's all settled on the undo that so we get back up on the next to the last material there. So when this happens, just hold the material. What we'll do is add a little bit of glue to the thread here. I've got glue on my hands now. Get that back in. There we go. This Craftfur can be kind of staticky and messy. But there we go. We're in. We'll use this again to flip that around. And this time I will come back on the Craftfur right there. So I have a lot of prop behind it, and that'll tighten it right up. Again, I'll come in now with some green Flashabou, something softer. This is just a floral or holographic green. I'll use a healthy amount. This particular color seems to just be good in the fall and all through the winter for us as well. We'll tie that in like so. And one little tip when you're reverse tying materials, any material, any flash, so you don't build too much bulk up, you know, in your tying points, you can always work your thread up a little bit past where you want to reverse tie. So you're not just keeping it all in one spot and getting a huge buildup of thread, and then you can work it back and maintain a smaller little section there. Let's see, we'll get a little bit more flash on the other side. Trim that, add a touch of glue. And this you can cut fairly short as well. Let's see how we're doing. And you still want to maintain that nice teardrop, and whether this Craftfur tied in a 360 this way just kind of imitates a lot of different bait fish that our Great Lakes steelhead are gonna see. And why they're fond of these kinds of colors, I'm not entirely certain. Could be the color of our water, just the strain of them, but they do definitely like them. So then I'm going to make this fly even uglier, but for some reason this seems to really be just a hot spot for these fish. So I'm actually going to spin a loop, and you see with the thread, you can, again, using thread pressure, we can kind of build up that head or make it flare out more. Now what I'll do is do a loop. And this is going to be a little bit gaudy, but this is sure seems to work for our winter steelhead. What I'll do now is I'm going to blend a little bit of different flash together. Some glitz, hot orange, and just kind of move it in my fingers like so. Grab some more. And this is going to essentially be like a final hackle where they take all the dubbing material, this really flashy kind of gaudy material, and spin it in a loop over the top. We'll add a touch of gold as well, and just put that in there, leave it nice and long. And I'll add some of this kind of copper fire brown, slightly different, not as long. We'll lay that kind of as a scrim right in the middle. And This is going to have a big, bright head. I guess somewhat reminiscent of the classic egg-sucking leech. And we definitely want to put a little bit of wax on that loop. We throw it in there like so. And we can trim this after. So leave it nice and long and scraggly and gaudy like that. Make sure we grab some tweezers so we don't catch too much material in this. Do it one more time. Once it's good and locked in, I just take these and start picking this out. And you just keep working at it a little bit. Be careful not to tear your thread while you do it. We want to get those trap materials out and splayed out, and also thin up our rope here, as it were. There's a lot of flash in this pattern. They're definitely fairly gaudy in terms of the way patterns go, but that seems to be how the Great Lakes winter steelhead flies have evolved. And don't worry about it being caught up there. We'll definitely pick a bunch of it out, and then we'll go ahead and lock this off. Okay. Now, I'm just going to pick all this flash dubbing all out. This is mainly the glitz dubbing here, which has these very long, flashy fibers to it. And as I said, there's a lot of flash in this pattern. Very gaudy pattern. Yet at the same time, it doesn't really hold water because it's fully synthetic as well. And then what I'm going to do is finish with a copper disc. I lost my razor, but that's okay. Go like that. Slide that on, use this pin here like so, and I can really push it right up into all that material. I'll take it and grab my lighter here, wherever my lighter went to. Ah, perfect. And with these, I usually melt it like that and just let me get it warm again. Push it, flip it around, and push it on. And this is kind of a Great Lakes Craftfur steelhead fly right there. Lots of flash, fully synthetic, somewhat gaudy, but they actually swim very brilliantly in the water. They're very easy to cast. There's no water holding in this fly whatsoever, hence no weight on it. On multi-density type Skagits or Scandies, it'll sink and go down really well for you, and they're fairly durable all through the winter fishing. So that's just a Craftfur steelhead fly, and if you're going to fish in the Midwest, you should have a few of those in your box as well. Thank you.